Welcome to tonight's full meeting of Derbyshire Dales District Council, the first of this year. It's good to see so many of you. Let's get started then, please, if we may. So, first of all, we have apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from councillors Steve Flitter, Dermot Murphy, Nick Whitehead and Dawn Greatorex.
Thank you. Can we turn then to public participation? We have Councillor Vicky Rains from Tansley Parish Council. Vicky, would you like to come and speak? You have 3 minutes.
Hi, yes. These are concerns related to the local plan and the lack of consultation. MPPF states the local plan should deliver sustainable development that reflects the vision and aspirations of communities. How have communities been involved in the preparation, alteration and review of the draft plan? In your rush to complete work, public consultation has been poor. I'm not aware of any public meetings. Residents want to know what is planned for their area and if the required assessments have been done and are open to public scrutiny. This information is still not available in spite of work commencing 2022. The local development scheme has been changed yet again. Public participation on Regulation 19 does not take into account any changes that may be needed additional to public consultation. Surely there should be an additional date on the matrix. Or have the council decided already there will be no significant changes? This could be seen as predetermination of a public consultation. It is of concern that there has been so little consultation, Derbyshire Dales even watering down planned Regulation 18 consultation to preclude a full public involvement. Whilst there is thanks to the local plan committee, it is not a large enough group for such a major decisions and does not truly represent the communities of the plan area. One wonders if communities actually know the implications of the lack of consultation by DDC. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, if we move on then to item 3, which is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting or meetings. So we've got the council meeting on the 27th of November, and members are asked to approve the accuracy of that. Could I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Buttle. Thank you, Councillor Wilton, as a seconder. Could I have a show of hands, please? In favour? Thank you. Anyone against? And any abstentions? I don't believe there are any. Thank you very much for that, members. I'd now like to ask if members have any interests they would like to declare relating to tonight's business. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a non-pecuniary interest in item 9.
Thank you. We'll note that. Anyone else? No. All right. Thank you. So moving then on to the leaders' announcements. So in the absence of Councillor Flitter tonight, Councillor Butcher is going to present announcements on his behalf.
There are not any announcements today.
Thank you for the brevity. We don't have the civic chair tonight either, do we? No. In which case...
I have no announcements either.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Might be able to stand in. Thank you. Okay. I can see that we're actually, we might exceed tonight's expected end of meeting at this rate. Okay. Item 7 then, committees. So this is receiving the non-exempt minutes of a series of committees that you've got in front of you there. Community Environment from the 13th of November, the Local Plan Committee 19th of November, Governance and Resources, yes, hold on a second, Councillor Hughes, 20th of November, Local Plan Committee 3rd of December, Community Environment 11th of December, Licensing and Appeals the 16th of December and Scrutiny of the 18th of December. Yes, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. It's about the procedure and and minute taking. I'm bringing as an example the public participation for the local plan committee meeting on the 3rd of December last year, and in that there was a speaker, the chair of Tansley Parish Council, and all the minutes do is note that she spoke. There was no coverage of what she said in those minutes. And my question really was, is that recorded anywhere else except in the recording a recording on YouTube of the meeting? Because it really needs to be recorded for posterity. And as a result, I think the chair has come here tonight to speak again in a forum where perhaps her comments will be noted. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good question. I'm not sure if we know the immediate answer to that. I'm looking to my left here to see whether any of the officers are able to advise on whether that kind of detail is recorded somewhere.
Through you, Chair, what I will say about the minutes is it's not a verbatim record about what happened at at any meeting. It's just really a record of of speakers. But I'm sure we can have an offline conversation about how detailed that would be. But as far as I'm aware, it is just a record of who's spoken, and just as it is highlighted within the minutes. As they are now, and I think that is reflective across all of the minutes that we do have across the council, as to not because it is just a record, not a verbatim record of what's said.
Okay, through you, the chair again. Those minutes go on to record the issues raised by councillors in the meeting, but they didn't record the perhaps quite relevant comments that the member of the public made in that meeting. And it's quite, given that our decisions are based on input from a number of different sources, perhaps it would be useful if the comments made by the public were also included. Thank you.
Okay. It's a good point. Councillor G.
Yeah, just while we're talking about this particular committee, the local plan committee, and in particular the meeting on the 3rd of December, we're not represented on that committee, so we're not able to see what happens other than these minutes or the verbatim or not verbatim. But one of the things I'd like to ask officers is, does that committee possess delegated powers? And any decisions made at that committee, are they considered to be full decisions of this council? Because I know on this evening we've got agenda item 11, which is basically bringing that from that committee that we're asking to vote on. So I'd like to know, have they made a decision which is considered a council decision?
I mean, my understanding is that the local plan committee reports to the full council and its actions are ratified at full council. I believe that's the case.
Through you, Chair, we're not in questions at the moment, but it is being sort of looked into, and I'm sure Councillor G will be responded to.
Thank you. So we're actually dealing with the minutes at the moment, aren't we? So unless there's any further questions about the minutes, could I have a proposer and seconder for those? Councillor Wilton, is that proposal? Thank you. Councillor Bottle, yes. Seconder, thank you. In which case, could we have a show of hands, please, to receive the minutes? All those in favour? And any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. Okay. So we now move on to questions from councillors. We have a series of those tonight. Thank you for those, members. Councillor Bond, I think you got your first question.
Thank you, Chair. I will read the question. As you will be aware, there's an application for a solar farm at Brailsford. Could I ask how the District Council intends to ensure that the need for renewable energy does not lead to the routine loss of productive agricultural land or the industrialisation of rural communities? particularly in light of this proposed 373 acres solar development near Brailsford. I would say that residents are broadly supportive of solar power, but many are struggling to understand how the scheme of this scale on farmland aligns with the Council's own landscape and countryside protection policies, and I would welcome clarity on what tests the Council will apply around scale, site selection and land quality, and how confident the Council is that generally more suitable alternatives have or will be fully explored.
Thank you for the question. The potential solar farm is at the consultation stage and pre-application. No planning application has yet been submitted. If a planning application is submitted in future, the Council would, in its role as the local planning authority, need to assess the proposals against all relevant national and local planning policies as required by legislation. National policies are provided in the National Planning Policy Framework, and local policies are provided in the Derbyshire Dales local plan. The local planning authority would need to come to an overall balanced view as to the acceptability or otherwise of the proposals. And as part of this process, it would take account of all material planning considerations. Issues around scale, site selection and agricultural land quality would be considered as part of this process. As the proposals are still at an early stage and still evolving, it would be premature to provide an indication as to the scheme's relative merits at this stage.
Thank you.
Would you like to come back on that?
Yes, I would, Chair. I used the word, just before the question, Chair, the follow-up question, I used the word solar farm. And actually, it's an interesting phrase, solar farm, and we've kind of broached into common parlance, I think, really. But the reality is that this is a utility-scale solar energy development, and it's significant in its size. And that distinction does matter because we're not discussing a small agricultural scale installation, but a major piece of energy infrastructure with long-term land use and landscape implications. And so I do have a follow-up question, and I don't know if it can be answered, but while I recognise the developer is in the consultation stage, and I myself have been in conversation with the developer, I wanted to ask how the council itself will ensure meaningful community engagement itself once the proposal enters the formal planning process. The reason I asked the question, Chair, is because it's not a simple, straightforward, 5-house, 10-house, 15-house development. It is a significant piece of landscape. And therefore, even though the developer is at the consultation stage, which Councillor Butcher has indicated, I do feel that there ought to be some significant additional measures taken where the council itself can ensure more meaningful community engagement once the proposal enters the formal planning stage. And I just wanted some assurance that that will take place, actually, beyond a kind of, small to medium-sized housing development. Okay. Can somebody answer me that question?
It's a good question. I mean, I know the council obviously deals with some quite large planning applications
Yes.
in other necks of the woods. Whether any of the officers would like to comment specifically on consultation on an item of this nature. Okay, sounds like we will get an answer to you on that
okay?
Specifically.
Yes, I mean, just to say, Chair, I am aware that I noticed on the internet this week the consultation at Ashbourne, which is a significant, very large site, is going out. I don't know if that's an additional measure that's taken because it is a large development, but I just wondered, my question really is, in comparison, is there going to be some additional input into getting the views and feelings of the community? Thank you.
Councillor G, you have 2 questions, don't you?
Am I allowed to answer?
Not really, no. Outside of the meeting, perhaps. No. Okay, thank you. It's your turn.
Right, so, the council, Derbyshire Dales needs a green belt to protect land like that, but that's what it needs. Right. In the absence of the leader of the council, could the deputy leader of the council confirm the following strategy is being undertaken Just 1 second, let me just put my special reading glasses on. By the Council in respect of the review of the adopted local plan. The existing local plan, which was adopted by central government in 2017, was designed to deliver 285 houses per annum. Following the government's amendments to the MPPF, which were in November-December 2024, the housing targets have now been raised to 573. Forgive me if some of these figures might not be perfectly accurate because they do change quite a lot. Per annum over a 20-year period starting in 2020, so that's basically 2020 to 2040. Due to the shortfall in delivery in the first 5 years of the plan period based on the actual housing totals, that's housing that's been built during that period, because we have those figures, approximately 225 houses per annum built. The actual housing target is now 623 per annum over the remaining 15 years of the plan period. Now, I would like an acknowledgement from the council leader, or deputy leader in this case, that his council are now committed to delivering these housing numbers using a spatial strategy which is a continuation of the housing distribution patterns as the adopted local plan. And for clarity, the reason I'm asking this question is because we did have 4 choices, and that's the only thing we've seen back in March. This method involves the majority of the housing being provided in Tier 1 settlements. That's Matlock, Ashbourne and Wirksworth, which is 78.8%. Tier 2, which is solely Darley-Dale, we only have 1 Tier 2 settlement. And Tier 3, which is like Tansley, 11%, and a nominal number less than 1% in Tier 4 and 5 settlements. I'd like him to confirm whether that is the actual case at the moment, just for transparency to the public.
Councillor Butcher, I think you're responding, aren't you?
Thank you, Councillor G. I've got rather a long answer in front of me, and I think most of it is about the numbers. And I hesitate to read it all out, but basically, as you said, your numbers are not quite right, but they're in that sort of magnitude. And the point is that it's possible, it says, which I take to mean likely, that the plan period will start from 2025, so it's not starting from 2020. And we'll use the most up-to-date output from the standard method calculation as a starting point, so it's not taking account of historical figures. Should the plan period commence in 2025, there will be no scope to count past delivery or indeed under delivery in the assumptions and calculations going forward. The Local Plan Committee at its meeting on the 8th of October considered the approach to the settlement hierarchy and resolved that it should be taken into account in the formulation of a revised spatial strategy and policies for the location and scale of development within the revised Derbyshire Dales local plan. Basically, the adopted plan doesn't actually specify proportions of development to different tiers in the settlement hierarchy. The evidence base, including information on land availability, infrastructure and the sustainability appraisal, will be used to determine the most appropriate and final development strategy in the revised Derbyshire Dales local plan. Members will be kept updated on progress by the Local Plan Committee. Councillor G will see from the paper on this agenda that there is a proposal to hold a number of informal meetings of that committee where the invites will be extended to all members to attend. Thank you.
Councillor G. Microphone, please.
Sorry. The only information that's been made available to members, as far as I remember, and I do keep an eye on this, in terms of strategy, spatial strategy, are the 4 choices that were presented to, it was the Local Plan Subcommittee. I think that was on the 7th of May 2025, and that was a table with 4 choices. The first one being the continuation of the distribution patterns as adopted local plan. And then there were 3 other choices. two that were sort of hybrid, and one was including a new town. Now, is Councillor Butcher telling me that this has changed now? Because the last I heard is that the local plan committee had chosen to continue the distribution patterns as the adopted local plan. So that's the first point on this. The second point, the council leader has recently written a letter to the Secretary of State indicating that he wanted to ask the government to renegotiate the housing targets. Does this say to us that the council as a whole is uncomfortable with the direction of the local plan in terms of the housing targets, and it's not happy with them? Because if Councillor Flitter has actually written a letter to the Secretary of State asking him to renegotiate, that tells me that this council is uncomfortable with the amount of houses they're asking us to build, in which case it puts the whole scenario of the local plan in question, whether we should be continuing with it at all.
If I can answer that, so I should have read out the first half of the answer, which deals with the numbers of houses and the situation of the council on that. And I don't know if the chair of the local plan committee might like to answer your first question about the spatial strategy and how that's changed, but that's up to the chair. On the first part that I should have read out, the government updated the methodology for establishing local housing need in 2024. The methodology requires inputs which change on an annual basis so that the housing need figure does change. Using the current inputs from March and May 25 to the calculation gives a local housing need of 575 dwellings per annum. This relates to the whole of the Derbyshire Dales. The local plan will not include land that falls in the national park. The figure of 575 dwellings per annum will be the starting point for the updated plan, local plan, not the 623 you mentioned before. The council has commissioned work to consider what the split might be between the local planning the local planning authority area and the Peak District National Park. This recommended that a reasonable split would see 415 dwellings. So this is the point the leader is making, per annum for the local plan area, and 158 dwellings per annum for the Derbyshire Dales area of the National Park. Discussion to agree the contribution within the National Park is ongoing, and determining the appropriate housing requirements will need to consider all evidence on housing delivery and land availability. If it is concluded and can be justified that there is insufficient land for 575 dwellings per annum, then the lower housing requirement will be planned for and submitted to the government for examination. Should that lower figure be accepted by the inspector and subsequently adopted in the local plan, it would then become the new housing target. So that's the council's position.
Am I allowed to come back on that?
Let's just see if we can get some clarification on the spatial strategy changes first. I don't know whether either Councillor O'Brien or Steve Capes would like to comment on that point particularly.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to confirm that the Local Plan Committee has not endorsed any of the 4 potential strategies, spatial development strategies, which have previously been the subject of discussion at the committee. That decision will be taken within the next couple of months because it needs to be informed by the evidence as to the ability of the council to deliver any one of those strategies, and that evidence is contained essentially within the outcome of the strategic land availability study.
Thank you for that. Councillor G, did you have a brief follow-up?
Yeah, just a brief follow-up is that I think it's a complete farce because, you know, this is basically 2 years into a review of the local plan. And we've heard from Councillor Butcher that they're clueless about how many houses they want to build or they're going to be asked to build. And yet, on this evening's meeting, at the next stage in the agenda items, we're being asked to ratify the timetable. I think this is a complete disaster for Derbyshire Dales because everybody knows that it's impossible to deliver these houses. You know, prove that the number of houses that have been built over the last 5 years is 225, and that falls in line with the number of houses that we were actually looking to build in the review of the local plan, which is around 217. So anybody that really believes that we're going to be able to build 400, and I think Councillor Butcher got it the wrong way around in terms of the Derbyshire Dales and the National Park, or 500, it's just hopeless, and it just leaves us open to the developers, and places like Tansley,
So this is an opportunity for
Darley
a question rather than a
Ashbourne
statement.
and Matlock are going to be devastated with overbuilding.
Okay.
So I think we need to get our heads around this completely.
I'm not detecting another question there, but in fact you do have another question. Would you like to move to your second question, please?
Right. At the last full council meeting, I proposed a motion to increase the amount provided to each council member to distribute for local projects from £1,000 to £10,000 per annum. This motion was subsequently approved with an amended wording to replace £10,000 with the words "a reasonable amount." Please could the council leader, or in this case the deputy council leader, confirm how much is a reasonable amount, and does the decision on the value of a reasonable amount have to be decided on the overall amount of each project fund request, or will the council set a value against an overall reasonable amount? This new value will come into place from the 1st of May 2026 and last until May 2029, or the cessation of this council, whichever is the earliest date. So I'd like that clarifying, if possible.
Councillor Butcher.
Thank you for your question, Councillor G. A report is currently being drafted for members on the progress and performance of Local Projects Fund, and this will include a review of the allocated amount for members and the duration of the scheme. What I can say is that the proposed amount should not be looked at in isolation. It needs to be considered alongside information on the uptake and current spend of the scheme and the Council's overall financial position, which currently is being worked on by officers.
Right, what I'd like to ask the leader is that the reason I did bring this item is because we're looking at the sunset of this council, and on not a daily or a weekly or monthly basis, we all receive local project fund requests. And, you know, it's very difficult for us to direct a reasonable amount, as suggested, to these funds, because most of them are asking us for about £1,000, which is the maximum they can ask for. And currently each councillor has £1,000 for the whole year. So we can't really touch the sides. And I'm getting really sensible and good local projects. And I'd like to see this council, in the twilight of its existence, be able to put some reasonable amount of money into these local projects so we can actually make a difference. Because all this money has been given to us by taxpayers in Derbyshire Dales. So that is, I'd like him to give a real focus to that, please.
Okay, so it's a statement rather than a question. Okay. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that, Councillor Butcher? No. Okay, thank you. All right, so we move on to our next question, please, which is Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chair. I have grave reservations about Derbyshire Dales District Council agreeing to move the travellers to the depot on Mayfield Road, Ashbourne, particularly in light of the Nestles Covenant, which makes such a move illegal. Can the leader tell me which officers and members proposed this move, and are our councillors personally financially liable for this? Thank you.
Councillor Butcher.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bates. Members of the Community and Environment Committee have debated this issue at great length during the last 2 months, and the reports presented have articulated very clearly the legal, financial and operational implications. The Progressive Alliance have collectively sought to respond clearly and decisively to a situation at Clifton Road, Ashbourne, which is wholly inappropriate and could not be allowed to continue due to the adverse impact on local people including school children, residents and hospital visitors. It was a collective decision taken by members of the Progressive Alliance site as a temporary traveller site, and our officers were tasked with evaluating and reporting the implications through a process which has been undertaken in public meetings with complete openness and transparency. In terms of personally financially liable, my understanding is that it's extremely unlikely that councillors would be personally financially liable for a decision made by the council, but that can be clarified further if you want.
Would you like to come back on that?
Can I come back? You say it's unlikely, but you're not ruling it out completely.
I've sought legal advice and haven't got a clear answer as yet.
Thank you. Can I have a supplementary question, please? Has the council had a response from Nestlé regarding the lifting of the covenant? If we have, are they willing to lift the covenant on Mayfield Road? Thank you.
Can I ask the officer to, okay, the last I heard, and that's the position is that the Nestlé have not responded yet to the council's request for relief from the covenant.
Just come back on that. It seems very strange because a member of the public has had a reply and Ashbourne Town Council have had a reply, so I'm very surprised that Derbyshire Dales haven't.
Apparently that seems to be the case at the moment. Okay, Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Butcher, what urgent action is Derbyshire Dales District Council taking to address sewage discharge concerns from the Whitworthdale development at Darley Dale, which include removing sewage in lorries? And will these concerns be reflected in the local plan review?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Hobson. On the local plan side, the local plan review will include updated evidence on flood risk and infrastructure. The concerns raised will be passed to the consultants undertaking this work for consideration. My understanding is the council does not have responsibility for that side. It's the developer that is responsible and is indeed dealing with the sewage, as I understand it. The sewer is not yet adopted by the relevant authority, which won't be the district council in any case. But I'm speaking not with expertise on this, so if anybody wants to correct me about the details, I'm welcome. But that's my answer.
Thank you. Will the council commit to refusing all schemes without direct evidence in the future that foul water drainage is in place? And will this be explicitly addressed in the local plan?
I'm unable to answer that, I'm afraid. I don't know what the process should be. Is there an officer willing to speak for that, or should we take it away after the event?
Steve, would you like to comment at all?
The suggestion of taking it away and providing an answer after the event will be very sensible.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Let's move on then to item 9 on your agenda, which is the local council tax support scheme for 26-27. Karen, would you like to kick us off on this one, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is a report that I bring to members every year because we're required to approve a local council tax support scheme before the start of each financial year. This scheme mirrors the current year's local council tax support scheme. It applies to pensioners and to working age claimants that have low levels of income and savings. And it awards those claimants that are eligible a council tax support of 91.5% of their bill. Within the scheme, there is a discretionary hardship fund. We currently budget £20,000 for that, and that allows the Revenues and Benefits Manager to award a top-up for the remaining 8.5% for cases of severe financial hardship. We've only adjusted the scheme this year to tweak certain thresholds as recommended under the regulations. So asking members to approve the scheme and to approve the £20,000 budget for the discretionary hardship fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions to Karen on this one? Councillor G.
I think this is really a very important item that we discuss on an annual basis. And I know that a lot of people are struggling a lot at the moment due to the state of the current economy. And what I'd like to ask Karen is this £20,000, is that sufficient to cover discretionary hardship fund applications? Because it doesn't sound to me to be an awful lot of money.
It is felt to be sufficient. We based that on the expenditure this year. The 8.5% for each claimant, it doesn't amount to a great deal, so we can pay quite a few out of that fund. And I do say in the recommendation that if it does appear to be insufficient, I will bring a report back to members to request an increase.
Okay. Councillor Peacock.
So I'm just asking for future, really, because it's going to be too late for this year. But I wonder is it possible for next year to have a wider review of the scheme? Because, for example, it has come to my attention recently that apprentices only qualify for council tax reduction if they earn less than £165 a week. That is now considerably below the apprentice minimum wage, so it's no longer relevant. And I think that's a national figure, but I wonder if there's something we could do locally to help with that, because obviously apprentices in this district often have very high transport to work costs. But if that's also the case, there might be other anomalies like that. So my question is, can we have a wider review of it next year, please?
We could, but the problem will be capacity for officers. The last time the scheme was reviewed was probably 20 years ago, and that was we had to do a massive consultation exercise. We also need to bear in mind that any changes that arise are likely to cost the council and the other preceptors, the county council, the fire and the police, the cost shared with them, so it's likely to increase their costs. What I would say is, in the case of apprentices, it might be that they would be eligible under this discretionary hardship fund, and it would be much more manageable to award them, to look at our criteria for that, and considering awarding them under that if they can prove that they're in severe financial hardship. And that's more in our own hands.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Wilson. Oh, yes, you may. It's proposing. Do we have a second? Councillor Way. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving into debate on this. Would any members like to speak on this? Looks like a no. Oh, Councillor Way.
I'd just like to say, each year this comes through, it's always something that I feel good inside about, because it is something that enables those that find themselves in hardship are able to get some benefit. And I thank Karen for doing the report, and I'm sure that you'd be welcome to come back for more money for this sort of cause. Thank you very much.
Okay. If there's no other members that want to speak on this, then can we move straight to the vote? Can I see all those in favour of the two recommendations, please? Okay. And any against? And any abstentions? There's one, I think. Thank you, that's clearly carried. Let's move on then to item 10 on your agenda, which is an update on procurement relating to the independent person and the task and finish working group on the Gritstone Road appeal review. Caroline.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides members with an update on the procurement process undertaken to secure the independent person to support the Gritstone Road appeal review task and finish working group. Since the writing of this report, the working group have now completed its evaluation of the proposals received, and the majority of the working group members have selected a preferred candidate with the requisite expertise to undertake the review. A report was considered by the Governance and Resources Committee, where members noted the procurement update and acknowledged that, following the successful appointment of the independent person, there is no longer a requirement to seek additional funding beyond the previously approved £15,000. However, given the potential for the review to require additional time or specialist support, the Governance and Resources Committee supported the need for a modest supplementary budget of £5,000 to provide appropriate financial headroom and ensure the review can progress without delay or for the need to refer back to Council. Council is therefore invited to note the progress made and to consider the recommendations set out in this report, ensuring that review continues to be delivered transparently, independent and in full alignment with the scope previously agreed at Council in September 2025. Council is also further asked to consider both the approval of the additional supplementary revenue budget of £5,000, resulting in the total budget of £20,000, and the proposed change to the membership of the Task and Finish Working Group by replacing the 2 councillors representing the Matlock East and Matlock West ward to 1 member nominated by the Liberal Democrat group to ensure that the review proceeds independently and without any conflict of interest. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Hughes, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Something has been suggested to me since this report was considered earlier on elsewhere. On page 74, there's a table indicating the activity that will be undertaken by the independent person and the working group. And one of the elements on that is called Drafting Guide for Rule 6 Parties and Objectors. Now, as the terms of reference for this scrutiny is how it concerns how the council considered the evidence of a Rule 6 party. I'm curious to know why the drafting guide is for the Rule 6 parties and not the other way around. So shouldn't it be the drafting a guide for the Council to consider the evidence brought by Rule 6 parties and objectors?
Through you, Chair. Happy to make that change. Obviously, it's for the decision of the members of the working group to ask the independent how they want that course of action to be taken. So it's your gift within the working group to change that.
Okay,
the table is only indicative.
Okay. Can I draw the attention of the members of that committee, as I've withdrawn from the working group, to that particular point and compare the terms of reference for the working group, the working group with that particular point, and perhaps reverse it in the first meeting of the group. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor G.
Could I just ask when we're going to actually have a meeting for this group?
We're waiting on the clarification of the evaluation, which took place a couple of weeks ago now. So the chambers will be appointed, and as soon as they're appointed, the Democratic Services Manager will be in touch with the independent person and arrange a meeting suitable and convenient to the working group members. You'll be notified as soon as possible.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of general questions. Will it be for the Task and Finish group to decide whether this all these meetings will be in public and recorded in the interests of openness and transparency? Will it be the members' decision?
The difficulty with that is, to be open and transparent, there may be legal privileged discussions taking place within the meetings that cannot be streamed to the public, so we'd need to take guidance on that, depending on what the topic and what the questions and the guidance of the working group, how they wish to progress. I think at this time it would be unlikely that they would be streamed. However, we would give consideration, obviously, to publicising the report from the outcome, which would provide that information.
Could you consider streaming them and then taking bits out which were not able to be
We stream
shown?
them live generally.
as we are doing now.
Yeah, but then people can watch it on YouTube afterwards, can't they?
They can watch in real time as well.
Well, I'll bring that to the committee. The second one, you said about the legal privilege, and we've had this with the ARC report and this report, where this council, and in fact our council taxpayers, have paid for these reports, but we're not allowed to have access to them, which is absolutely ludicrous in my opinion. When we're looking at future reports, can we say that we paid for these reports and they should be ours?
The reports will be considered, they'll be reviewed, and provided that there's no implications for the council to release anything and be any damaging, providing legal privilege information to the public, that might need to be redacted. But until we've established what the actual findings of the working group are, we can't obviously give an assessment of that until the findings have been produced by the independent person. But it will be a consideration.
Because I've not seen any of these reports, and yet we vote on them all the time, and the councillors don't get to see them.
I'm not sure what reports you're referring
Well,
to.
the ARC Travellers report, I've never seen those, and we vote on things and we haven't seen them. Certainly that Wells report, we didn't see any concrete evidence, so that's what we want to be able to be seeing if we are making these decisions.
I think the intention is that the report will be made public, but we will need to give consideration to the content and whether all of it will, if there's some consideration to red actions being made to not make the council vulnerable in its position with legal privilege. But the intention is to release the report.
Thank you.
Councillor Wayne.
First of all, can I just stress as much urgency to include the community and those that have been negatively impacted by this prolonged application. That is equally as important as any legal privilege, if not more. I'm just keen to see, and my question is, when's this going to kick off? And can I urge it to be moved along swiftly, please? Thank you.
Once you've made a decision on the report tonight and the recommendations based on that, we can appoint the legal chambers with immediate effect, and as soon as the Democratic Services has made contact with that legal chambers, meetings will be scheduled. We've acted as quickly as possible to be in line with our contract standing orders for the procurement side. And as I say, we've taken a report to GNR. We've updated you as quickly as we could possibly do since September.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there a chairman to this group?
The independent person will be the chairman of this.
Yes. Okay. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, please, on 6.3 of this report, it's stated about that the Governance and Resources Committee were going to be looked at on the 8th of January over this extra money, and obviously it was waylaid. So can you please confirm, because obviously the report is written as is on the front, the actual amount of which we are actually putting forward to it now?
So the actual amount, the supplementary revenue budget, I'm seeking members' approval for £5,000, which will bring the total to £20,000, because you've previously got an approved budget of £15,000 from September.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's 20,000.
That's correct.
Okay. Not 30,000. That's.
No, unfortunately, when at the time of writing the report, the evaluations has not been completed.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Any other questions on this one at all? All right. So I'm looking for a proposer then for this. Councillor Wilton, do you want to speak on this at all?
No, thank you. Obviously, it's been to GNR already, and obviously there we agreed that the £20,000 and sort of quizzed it with members there. Thank you.
And a seconder, Councillor Hughes, is that? Yeah. Okay. Good. So we're moving into debate on this. Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got some comments that people have independently sent to me. Can it be in public and recorded? Is tonight a tactic to delay and put this issue on the back burner? How can the public be heard? Local people want answers quickly and transparently. They don't want future obfuscation and filibuster. And will we have honest answers? And if the meeting had been open in the first place, you'd be saving all this money because it would all be in the public arena. They're just comments from people who've got in touch with me. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak? A stunned silence. Okay, thank you. So we've had a proposer and a seconder, in which case we will move straight to the vote. Could I see all those in favour, please? Looks unanimous, I think. Am I right? Yeah. We believe that to be unanimous.
Yeah, no.
My apologies. Oh, right, sorry. Okay, those against? One.
Any abstentions?
I don't think there were any abstentions. Thank you very much. Thanks, members. Next item then, item 11 on your agenda, which is the Derbyshire Dales Local Development Scheme. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. I'll kick this one off. The local development scheme is a statutory requirement under the town and country planning regs that we have to produce, and it also has to be adopted by full council, hence why it's here tonight, although, as has been pointed out, much of the contact was in fact agreed at local plan committee last week. It is a technical document, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Matt Bowers to go through that. Matt is with us from Highest Consulting. He is and his company are working with us to project manage the local plan and provide expertise and technical input in specific areas where required over the next over the period set out in this local development scheme. Matt.
Thank you, Steve. Members, the report in front of you this evening for consideration seeks approval to adopt a new local development scheme, or LDS, for a shorthand. The council is required to prepare and keep up to date an LDS, which details what planning policy documents, such as the local plan, the council will prepare and timetable for their preparation and adoption. The most recent LDS was adopted by this council in January of last year. The LDS appended to this report updates the timetable to reflect the current position and provides clarity for communities on key dates as outlined in paragraph 2.7 of the report. The government has provided more details recently of the new planning system. Although we are still waiting for final regulations, critically the government has made it clear that the deadline for submitting a plan under the current system will be the end of December this year. The LDS in front of you takes account of that date and how it can be met. Once adopted tonight, it enables the council to then communicate with its communities about the new timetable. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and welcome to this council again. Questions? Councillor Ball.
Yes, it might be a particular question. I don't not got quite sure. We've got it as the LDS. It's a statutory thing, and we've done it every year. Does this cover us for the policies for all planning, and not just for the local plan issue that's going off at the moment? Because it seems to be coming as a situation of being a timeline for the actual local plan, and I felt that if this was put in last year, then we weren't really doing the local plan to that extent last year, but we do have planning policies and planning things in concern, and obviously we had the NPPF that changed in December 24. So this is making sure that all our policies are in line with all of that for when we look at any planning applications that come in. Is that right, or have I got that wrong? Not just for the local plan.
Through you, Chair, the LDS does cover all those policy documents that the council wishes to produce. It doesn't focus on the government's timetable because we're not in control of that. So it only focuses on what documents the council wants to produce. When the plan is submitted to the Secretary of State, it has to be in line with the LDS. So the LDS has to be accurate, and that's why we're having to update it.
Councillor Wayne.
Thank you. I've read this over the past few days, and basically, I mean, Councillor Rains alluded to this, that it should effectively address the needs of the local community and also take into account changing circumstances and affecting areas. Obviously, Storm Chandra recently has gone and bought a significant amount of surcharge of the drains and everything like that at Chesterfield Road, and Councillor Hobson alluded to the fact down at Darley Dale, and also close to the Chesterfield Road Treetops development. So we're having human waste coming into our area. This is a big problem here, a big problem in all other communities. But when I go to page 103, and I'm coming to the question, Chair, it says basically resources. There are mention of many departments consulted by officers in the District Council. However, there is no mention of the Derbyshire Local Lead Authority or Severn Trent Water on the preamble at all in page 103, 4.2. So what have we actually, and we're having all these significant issues with surface water, what contact have we had to enable us to provide a better assessment of the water? Further on it says about, so that's the first part, what have we had in relation to the water? Provision of infrastructure, is it for each individual site or is it for each individual town? And it says about workshops, so how many workshops have we had with Severn Trent Water and the local lead flood authority raising our concerns as a council? Because we should have grave concerns in this area, we should have significant concerns. And the second question that I want to ask is, has a current strategic flood assessment been completed? As this is an essential, it's essential that this is to provide an up-to-date information regarding surface water flooding, because I'm aware that there is significant new information that's come forward that would be in that surface water strategic surface water flood risk assessment that would benefit any people like the community, the local plan assessing it. So those are the first two questions. I'll let you answer them because I do have a third question which will be a short one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of engagement to date, I haven't got the exact details in front of me. We can find those out and let you know. I am aware that through the process of the evidence-based collection, the lead local flood agency has been previously contacted for input into, for example, on sites, as has the Environment Agency and Severn Trent. The paragraph you drew attention to particularly is focused around resources internally. It does make reference to those contacts we will have with externals, but really that part of the LDS is focused on internal resources. In terms of the second question, an SFRA was produced, is my understanding, in 2021, and the council has currently commissioned consultants to provide a new piece of evidence on flood risk.
Can I come back, Chair, please?
Yes.
So, since 2021, particularly in this area, and I'm afraid I focus on this area because that's the area I know, but there's been an area-wide catchment assessment of the Bentley Brook, which is a very interesting document, particularly in relation to an Alston Place pump station. So, when will we be having the up-to-date strategic flood risk assessment, and will it be in time for the local plan people, the people on that committee, to inwardly digest it and take account of it? Because there are sites round here that are significantly surcharging because of errors made on previous developments, such as the Honey development, which should never have gone through. Thank you.
Matt, I don't know if you can answer that.
I haven't got the dates in front of me for the completion of that piece of work. It's clearly a critical piece of work for informing the local plan, and it will need to be completed before the plan can be completed. So I hope that it will be ready in time to come to a local plan committee very soon, probably looking towards I'm going to say April time, but I haven't got the dates in front of me, and again we can feed that back. And that will take account of the most recent position, and those consultants will be talking to those relevant statutory organisations such as EA, the LLFA, and those utility providers.
And my final question was in relation to the SHLA. Is that something that would be one of these documents that would lie within this portfolio on this this document here on the local plan development scheme?
The SHLA itself doesn't. It's a piece of evidence that will inform the local plan production.
Right. I just want to, if you're going to be involved in that at all, I just want to raise that the one in relation to Gritstone Road, which is still in the local plan, even though the inspector has been very, very critical about it, it's not up to date, and there are water courses going through that. So can you please assure me that that will be updated so that the local plan group can see it in its updated form?
Yes, I can assure you of that. The SHLA has been updated as we speak. It's a priority for officers to undertake that piece of work. It is an iterative process because, for example, the SFRA won't have been completed. So when that has been done, we'll have to go back and revisit some of the conclusions, but we have had updated comments in from stakeholders, and that piece of work is being updated now.
Yeah. And can I, just finally, can you please also make sure that Severn Trent are consulted, because they did do a imaging of the drainage system for 100 metres on Chesterfield Road, and they identified to the LLFA that there was faults in that, but it still got through. And recently, I'm reliably informed in this storm Chandra, it has been that drain has now collapsed. I'm advised. So we need to get our act together in relation to water around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Buttle, you had a question.
I do. I guess I've heard very good things about your team, and I'm very pleased to have you take part. I think Hyas have got a good reputation, and you've done some good work recently locally. This isn't actually a question for Hyas, it's more of a question for Steve. If we have more changes in our team locally, do we have the flexibility to bring more people in from Hyas if we need them in without coming back to council for more funds?
Yes, we do, Councillor Buttle. One of the reasons for contracting with Hyas is that they do bring that resilience and flexibility. They have a team which can flex according to the needs at different times and according to the specialities we need at any one time. The contract we have procured with them is an encompassing one that allows that flexing to take place. And confirmation from my colleagues in finance states that the budget is in place as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I'd like to speak in debate, but I've just got one very short question now, and that, well, it's actually a confirmation of what was said in the last local plan committee meeting, and that is that information or the outcome of planning applications and appeals associated with sites that are in the local plan will be considered in the SHLA. I'd just like that confirmed in the evaluation of those sites that may be put into the local plan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, they will be. Yes, the most up-to-date position will be considered as part of those assessments in the SHLA.
Thank you.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I've also had contact from somebody at the Wolds who's analysed the SHLA document in great detail and identified failings, which also gives me grave reservations about the other ones. And will you have contact with this sort of local parish and town councils over specific schemes? before they're published in the SHLA.
My understanding that parishes and town councils have already been consulted as part of the SHLA process and asked for comments on particular sites.
Can I just come back? I mean, Councillor Hughes very kindly came to Darley-Dale Town Council, and people, and they are, elected town councillors, not really aware of the process, and you'll agree with me, won't you, David? People don't know what's going on. Mrs. Rains comes time and time again and makes excellent points that I really think we should be taking notice of. Talking of a specific site, these are photos. We've got a photo from Old Hackney Lane yesterday, where the second lot of houses will be built. And that comes on top of investigations into flooding in the basement of the Whitworth Hospital. It's just mad. It's just, how can we get that effective? The people on the ground, it's found with the walls, they knew what was going on. We'd got expensive consultants. They didn't know what was going on. So can you give us an assurance that you will contact people again, the parish and town councils, and tell them what you're going to publish? Well, in good time.
At the next meeting of the local plan committee, we intend to have a discussion around communications going forward. I can't make any commitments around consulting on specific pieces of evidence with specific groups. I think one of the what I took away from the last committee was a clear desire to make sure that those local groups, parishes, are engaged in the whole process. But we are also very mindful of the timetable that's in front of us and the time we've got to undertake the work and get a plan drafted and submitted to the Secretary of State.
Okay. Thank you. Some very searching questions there on some very serious matters. Thank you, members. In which case we are moving into debate, if in case you hadn't already realised that. We have a proposer in the form of Councillor O'Brien, I think.
Thank you, Chair. And in moving the recommendation here this evening, I want first to emphasise the total commitment of the administration, and notwithstanding some of the comments made earlier in the meeting, I'd like to think of the whole council to ensuring that our revised local plan is submitted to government before the end of December 2026. Without the new local plan, we will continue as a council to have little or no control over new development, and our communities will be at the mercy of the development industry, something which planning committee members will be only too aware of, and which, if left unchecked, will threaten all that we cherish in the Derbyshire Dales. Even though we have been obliged to modify some aspects of the programme for the completion of the revised plan, we remain committed to having a local plan which meets the needs of our local communities, including older people, people with disabilities, and our children and our grandchildren, which provides homes of the right type and in the right locations, which supports the growth of local businesses and ensures that our green environment continues to flourish, while addressing the very real challenges that climate change brings us and which members have graphically referred to this evening. Again, as a council, we remain totally committed to meaningful engagement with our local communities over the period before the period of formal public consultation on our new local plan, which will begin in the summer of this year. And finally, it's no secret that the past 2 or 3 months have been particularly challenging for our officer team, and I want to thank them for the way in which they have risen to these challenges. And also to thank members of the local plan committee from all parties for the support they've given to the officer team, and to myself and our Vice Chair, Councillor David Hughes. This support augurs well for the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Bates, would you like to speak about this?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. We are now into debate. Councillor G.
recommendations.
If you have one to hand and a seconder.
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment to the actual recommendations that the council pauses work on the local development scheme and local plan in a bait to receive a positive response from its request to the Secretary of State in relation to the request for the housing targets to be reduced. And I just don't see how we can continue with this work on the local plan when we don't know how many houses we want to be building. They haven't come up with a new spatial strategy. We're happy that the current spatial strategy suits the housing targets that were in the review, the original review, but it clearly doesn't suit the new housing targets. So I don't see how we can just give the council permission to continue with this when it doesn't know what the end game is. So I think we need to stop it and wait and have a satisfactory answer to the request to reduce the housing targets from the ridiculous number that they've been set at the moment. And it's clear that the leader of the council isn't comfortable with them, otherwise he wouldn't write the letter in the first place. And I presume that means his political alliance, Progressive Alliance, is in tune with that. I know he isn't here tonight, but that must be the case. And if it's not, please let me know. So, do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, to me, this sounds like a motion just opposing the whole recommendation rather than an amendment.
Well, it's an amendment to pause the work until such time that we receive clarity on the actual, because we don't, what the housing, because the whole point of a local plan, you need to have a plan to build the numbers of houses, but we don't know what we're trying to build.
Okay. I don't
and where
have
we're going to put
clarity.
them.
What I don't have is clarity over the wording of the amendment.
Well, do you want me to?
If you want to have a think about that.
No, I don't need to think. The council pauses its current work on the local development scheme until such time it receives clarity and an answer from government on its request to reduce the housing targets. This is the letter that Steve Flitter has written to the Secretary of State.
Thank you. Yes, it probably negates it, but let's just have some other comment on this, please. So, Councillor Wayne.
I would suggest that the comment goes totally, you can alter a motion minimally, but this is going totally against it completely. And the time that Councillor G should have done this, he should have brought a motion to council asking the council to do that and given 10 days clear notice, not dropped it on us tonight. I just feel it's totally against the spirit of our our constitution. Thank you.
But wait a minute, I've got to respond to that one because I've tried to bring this motion to council on 4 occasions and I've been banned each time because of decisions that have been made in the subcommittee of the local plan, which is completely wrong as far as I'm concerned. It's not transparent. I tried to bring it, I think it was in April, in July, in September, and on each occasion they said they'd made some spurrilous decision on the local plan in the subcommittee. The last one is that they'd already set the timetable without bringing it to full council on the 3rd of December. So, I'm sorry, I've tried to
can
bring
we move to a
motion.
vote, please? Yes. This will destroy the local plan because it won't be, if it doesn't go ahead now, it'll fail to meet the time deadlines, and therefore we will not have a local plan. So can we have a vote now on this amendment, please?
Thank you. So we've got a proposal there to move to the vote and a suggestion that what you're putting forward purely negates the recommendation here, which is also what I agree with. Councillor Butler, are you seconding the move to a vote?
I'm going to say we put it to a vote.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Oh, the amendment. Okay, all right. Yes, let's do that then first of all. Can we have all those in favour of the amendment, which, as I understand it, is to pause work on the local development scheme until such time as there is clarity from the government? All those in favour? Against? And what? Yes, abstentions. Just one, I think. That amendment is clearly lost, however you view it, in which case we're back into any further debate on the substantive. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank the officers for their flexibility, particularly in the period after we lost the officer who was responsible for moving the local plan forward at the end of last year. I feel that having moved that flexibility has resulted in a step change in the commitment of the council to producing a local plan, and I'd like to thank the officers for bringing it forward and in recruiting consultants. I am concerned, as a number of councillors are, about the difficulty of consultation with the public during this curtailed period. And we only have until about August to consult prior to the preparation of the submission draft. And I'd like to point out to councillors, once the submission draft has been prepared, that goes out to consultation, and what is sent to the planning inspectorate is the submission draft and the comments received in the consultation, suitably organised. So we need to have whatever input we can get from our local communities about various parts of the local plan, including the availability of infrastructure, the drainage and sewerage associated with particular sites and particular areas, and other factors that they would like to bring up about the spatial strategy as it evolves. The other parts of the plan are concerned with perhaps qualitative factors about housing and commercial development, and we also need comments about those, because we really do need to have the best and the most widely circulated submission draft that we can. It needs to incorporate as many comments from local people as we can. There is a duty on the council to do that. I have asked all of you to ask your parish councils for information about the sites that are possibly in the plan, the so-called SLA sites, and any other factors associated with their local area that may have an impact on suitability of sites for building in that area, in their area. They are the people. Well, they have a lot of the local knowledge, and as Councillor Hobson said, I talked to Darley Dale Council, and that was very productive. I talked to Tansley Parish Council, and that was very productive. And I would hope that we can talk to other councils as well. Councillor O'Brien and I have put ourselves forward for meetings with parish councils, and we'd be very pleased to do that if members would like that, or the parish councils would like that, so that we can inform them about the current state and where the direction of travel. And I would say, in terms of the requests about the direction of travel, that as Councillor O'Brien said, we have had to move forward from a position where we were just going to build according to our previous spatial hierarchy and our previous spatial strategy, and we have to consider alternatives to that, given the number of houses that the government is saying we need. And I would point out here that the government's specified need is a different number from the requirement that's placed into the local plan. The requirement that goes into the local plan will include local factors, which need to be taken into consideration, and those will include the availability of suitable sites. So please, can you ask your parish councils and town councils for information that is relevant to the local plan? Thank you.
Councillor Lees, think you were first.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hughes has asked most of what I was going to say, actually. I do think, no matter what, no disrespect to any consultants or advice we get from so-called different agents, this public knowledge is a must that we must obtain from the public. They know their areas, like Councillor Wayne knows his area. We know our area where it's going to flood, and we need to get this, we need to start listening to the public a lot more when we're doing these reports, because they've been there, they've seen it, they've done it, and that's more valuable than anything else that you could get. So we do need to listen to the public knowledge a lot more. So thank you.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. It's meaningful consultation, and it's listening to what people say and not just paying lip service to consultation. You know, I've got sympathy for, you know, Councillor G's motion coming through, and I think a lot of our public, you know, they see this as seeming a very rushed process. I've had lots of emails about this. I've just got a couple to read out. They're not from Gareth. The main issue is the overdevelopment of housing in the area, which is overloading a system which is not fit for purpose. That's Dollydale. And one, quite plaintive, you know what? It's the inertia and acceptance by councillors that I can't understand in not challenging these ludicrous number of houses this Labour government has forced on us. You know, that's telling somebody saying that. But on a positive note, I've had some dialogue with Richard Ward, who, as you know, is the lead flood at Derbyshire County Council, and also Chris Henning, who's one of the directors at Derbyshire County Council. They are very keen to work collaboratively with Derbyshire Dales District Council, and I have permission to say that. So that's positive.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Linthwaite.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you to come to me so quickly. Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of points, really. As many of you on the planning committee will be aware, I have spoken multiple times at planning committees regarding drainage and sewer systems, and particularly the Honey one. The drainage report for the Honey development is burnt into my brain as I spent a whole weekend reading it page by page, and I talked about the first 250 metres of that particular combined sewer that runs from the Honey development where it is now down on into Lumsdale. And at that particular planning committee, I explained that of the first 150 metres, the central 50 metres of that was completely inaccessible to the camera. So never mind anything that might be coming down that pipe, even the camera couldn't get up it. For the next 100 metres, only the first 10 metres was open enough for the camera to get down. Now, yesterday, when yet again I stood in my wellies, talking to the gentleman whose lorry was pumping out that sewer, he was horrified that this information was in the public domain and has been for at least 2 years. But because of the way the planning system works, the rules and regulations regarding that and who's responsible for what, the planning committee, although they were minded perhaps to refuse that particular application, were not able to do so because of the way the rules apply now. The second thing I'd like to just point out is regarding the County Council's local lead flood authority. I have been working with them, and Steve Wayne, as the other flood warden in Matlock, has also been working with them for several years now. And it is possible. They are really committed to moving things forward in a positive way for our communities. So I am currently putting together a meeting for about 7 properties in Matlock that are being consistently flooded. And the LLFA have successfully applied for funding, and they have now received the money to have specific flood mitigation adaptations made for specific properties that are routinely being flooded at the moment. And so that will be going ahead. So, you know, it is possible to do something, even though we have a planning system that doesn't help us support our communities at the moment. There are other things that can be done. So I would poor old Richard, sorry. I would encourage you to get in touch with him because, you know, we are being able to move things forward. So I'd like to thank them for that too.
Thank you. It sounds like, I don't know who Richard is exactly, but if you have his email address, it might be a very popular thing among councillors. Councillor Dobbs.
Thank you, Chair. It's predictable. It's Richard Ward. Thank you. Just to pick up on something that Councillor Hobson made in terms of sympathy with what Councillor G was suggesting, perhaps you missed the opening sentences of what Peter O'Brien said. Without a new local plan, we will have virtually no control over development. We've got about 1.4 housing land supply years at the moment. So the presumption is on development in a huge number of places. Unless we get this local plan through, we will just be crushed. If you can cast your mind back to the period of time from 2015 to 2017, maybe 2014 to 2017, when we had no local plan. I think you might have been a councillor there, perhaps you weren't. Apologies if I've got that wrong. But that was when Ashbourne, they built on pretty well anything they chose because we had no active local plan. The presumption was in favour of development. We've got to have this local plan. We must move heaven and earth, and thank you, Hyas and Matt, for the work that they're doing to get this through. So please support this. It's the way that one of your residents, in writing to you, it's their only hope. Thank you.
Councillor Martin Burfoot.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I've heard quite a lot tonight about drainage and sewage and such like in the Matlock area particularly, and now in Ashbourne. I'd like to endorse what my colleagues have said so far tonight. But I'd like to particularly endorse what Councillor Hobson has said about Old Hackney Lane, for instance, and also that used to be called Meadow View. That's now Whitworth Dale, I understand, on Bakewell Road. I had an appointment at Whitworth Hospital yesterday, and Sue actually dropped me off at the top of Old Hackney Lane on the Darley-Dale Matlock boundary. So I walked all the way down Old Hackney Lane and came across works and a field that was knee deep, if not worse, in mud and dirty water. And I assumed, when I saw a Severn Trent on the lorries, I assumed it was something to do with surface water, but they said, no, it's sewage. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, I had an appointment. I couldn't stop for long. But anyway, after I'd had my appointment, I thought I'd walk back along the A6 and went to the Whitworth Dale development, or Bowden Close, as I know it as, just to see what the situation was there. And the so-called attenuation pond was half full of dirty brown water, but I don't know how polluted it was, because there were about a dozen ducks swimming on it. Whether they were drinking the water and eating the weed, I'm not sure. But so it was brought home to me, and then of course we've heard about the water getting into the basement of the Whitworth Hospital. It was obviously coming out at the other end and going across the A6 in some way into that field. And of course, that development was approved against officer advice by the then Conservative controlled Planning Committee. It should never have gone ahead. Then, of course, we've got the situation now on Old Hackney Lane where two developments of about 70-odd houses altogether that were again rejected by the Planning Committee but allowed by the Secretary of State's inspector. So this is what we're up against, and it'll be the same even with a new local plan if we turn anything down, especially with the housing targets, the revised ones we've got. So anything that's refused by the Planning Committee is going to be even more likely to be upheld by an inspector. So we've got to keep campaigning, I think, about the disastrous situation here with the drainage infrastructure. And it's the same, presumably, all around the country, where it's just not fit for purpose. But of course, it's easier said than done to replace historic manhole, culverts and manholes and historic drains that have been trying to cope with demands from sort of 100 years ago sort of thing, but not necessarily with anything that we're proposing in housing developments today. So I endorse completely what people have said about the need for a local plan. If we don't have a local plan, then we're absolutely lost. We're sunk here.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I also wanted to support reiterate what Peter Dobbs said about the local plan and the importance of the local plan. and the urgency of the timescales that we've got to do to deliver it. And if we don't do that, then we're going to have to do something completely different, which is going to put us in all kinds of risk. And just to say, those timescales mean that we're really restricted on. We've got to do things concurrently. So we are trying to reduce the number of houses required in the local plan. We have written to the government about that. That doesn't mean that you then pause that on the basis of coming up with a local plan, because if the government says no to that, you've got to have a local plan. We've got to do that, make that decision by the end of December. These things are, because of the timescales that we've been set by government, you've got to do things at pace, and that's what we as a council are trying to do.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes? No? Okay.
Very well.
Councillor Slack?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Right, thank you, Chair. I agree with you. We've got to have a local plan. It's common sense, really. We've all agreed on that, really. But I would like to stress, for many, many years now, infrastructure has been a vast problem. For many years. It's not just suddenly happened, it's been a long while. And Severn Trent have really neglected improving the system for many years. They should have been doing this 15 years ago, improving the system. Now we've got a system which is antiquated, and it will not stand up to more housing going on it, unfortunately, which we want to build. So Severn Trent's got to get his act together, really, for us to proceed. So we really have got to be strong on Severn Trent to say, look, we've got to get better infrastructure, else these things are collapsing. We can't have lorries running sewage from one place to another. It's medieval, isn't it, really? So we've got to be strong on Severn Trent, in my opinion. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Susan Barfoot.
Susan, indeed. Thank you, Chair. I will be brief, probably, hopefully not repeating too much what other people have said, and I wasn't going to speak, but I can't resist it. First of all, could I just thank the members of the local plan committee and the officers and the consultants, because what they are charged with doing is no easy task. It really isn't. It's absolutely crucial that we have a local plan. And I'm sorry, Councillor G, but the idea of putting it off and delaying it is quite honestly ludicrous. We would be in such a mess without a local plan. Now, those of us who are on the planning committee, and I thank the other members of the planning committee for being on the planning committee, because it is not an easy job making decisions on that planning committee. We try to do the right thing. We try to look after the interests of the local communities, and on that basis we do rely on members who are very familiar with their area, like I like to think I'm very familiar, and David, with, I haven't forgotten anybody, have I? David Hughes with Matlock. But, you know, as I say, we always try to do the right thing, but we get knocked back so many times. I mean, we were absolutely clear that we did not want to vote for Old Hackney Lane. Those two sites, you could predict that there was going to be problems, and lo and behold, there have been. And local knowledge about that area was crucial, and we did what we thought was the right thing. We voted to refuse, and it got overturned again. And this is happening so many times. I mean, I didn't actually vote for Honey Homes. I just thought there'll be problems there. And lo and behold, I get an email to say that one of the manholes is bursting out with sewage. That people in that area amazingly, they phoned up somebody at Severn Trent who told them it was Yorkshire Water. And at that point, I did bring in Joe, and Steve, and they're dealing with it. And what's happening now, as far as I understand, is there has to be lorries there pumping it out until they can get round to doing a proper job. But, you know, I'm sure it's the same for other members of the planning committee, and indeed all members, that we know where these problems are going to be, and we don't want to be right, but too often we are right. But if we are without a local plan, we are absolutely snookered.
Councillor Butler.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm feeling a little bit more positive than most people here by the sound of it. I think once we've got some clarity from our local plan, then the appalling level of sewerage in our streams and rivers will be reduced, because, you know, like Severn Trent will know where more of our stuff is going to be going, so they can build their infrastructure around our demands. I realise that sounds pretty optimistic, but I did have a meeting with Liv Garfield, who's the chief executive of Severn Trent, and she promised. She's just gone. Oh God! Well, that's the end of that promise then, because she had actually promised me that she was going to manage our demands in a timely manner. So we shall see. I shall have to start again. Well, I'm out of date. Thanks.
Councillor Wayne.
Thank you. I just feel that I've just jotted down a few notes whilst we were going on, and I put here, it's not just about listening to members of the public, it's about acting on what they say and understanding what they say, and making sure that the partner agencies, such as I spoke to Mr Bowman about, Severn Trent Water, the LLFA, know about these things. I mean, it's totally wrong. Go back to the Gritstone Road debacle. You know, the members of the, you know, there's no way that we as a council should allow our communities to go through and endure what that community had to go through. For 6 years and longer, they had to go through the unacceptable stress and the associated planning blight, which has just lifted, because houses are actually starting to sell again on Gritstone Road, but they haven't over those years, and communities have been left really concerned about it. And this is all because the local plan committee in 2017 recommended that didn't go in that thing, and it was overruled by the controlling group because they needed the house numbers. But we must never, ever do that again to any of our communities, wherever they are across the district, because if there is evidence there to show that there are, I mean, Derbyshire, this council said that the Gritstone Road site, this is in 2013 or 14, said that the site is acknowledged to be undeliverable, and because of it's a priority 4 site, I think it was, without insurmountable constraints, and yet that still went into the local plan. It was voted in there as a knee-jerk reaction, unnecessarily, and an inspector now has had the presence of mind, with evidence from the community, not much from anywhere else, to overturn that, well, to support Chris Whitmore and our planning committee, which I applaud, because that is how democracy should work. And other issues in relation to this is it isn't just isolated to Matlock, it's Tansley, it's Darley-Dale, and Brailsford, and I know one's out to with the planning commissioner at the moment, planning inspector at the moment, but the problem, from what I've seen the breakdown of the actual pipes at Brailsford. They are very similar to the pipe structure up on near Honey Homes, and that needs, I just hope that inspector has the presence of mind to look deeply into that, because we are reaping the rewards. And I see Councillor Butler says, yes, it'll be all right once we start to take it on board. The people down Chesterfield Road are going to continue to become inundated with human waste and toiletry sanitary products coming up through those drains when our drainage system is surcharging, and that's at times of significant rainfall. What we've also got an issue with is that Severn Trent Water, none of these things, as far as I'm aware, are budgeted into their forward plan. And we're talking about £15 million to sort out the drainage system down Chesterfield Road, and that's what I was quoted when the Gritstone Road site was on. And another issue that I would stress that we do take, or the local plan group, and I would like to thank Mr Bowman and David and Peter and the officers for their, because it is refreshing when you read some of these things that we are moving forward with it. I just hope we do get it home for December 26. But there are other issues that I have problems with in relation to other developments that Severn Trent Water tell me that they can't complain or can't object to foul water. They are obligated to connect to the foul water system, a new development to the foul water system. There's currently one under application up on the moor for 75 lodges up on Farley Moor, sorry. What did I say? Darley Moor. Sorry. Farley Moor, up on the tops anyway. 75 lodges, and that's coming down. It's going to outfall onto Sandy Lane with 75 hot tubs of water that people may have used once or twice daily, or probably weekly or twice weekly, discharging into the Severn Trent network. Further down the system, that is again surcharging and putting out like products into the river, and it's unacceptable. And Severn Trent need to be made more accountable, and we need to get proper advice from them, and our planning committee deserve an accurate, and our planners deserve open and honest dialogue from them, not just we can't complain. If they know there's a surcharging of the river down at Matlock Green, they should say we are unable to complain, to object because of this. We are committed to connect, but there are issues with our system. That's what we should be doing. But I just hope that Mr Bowman, thank you for taking those points on board. It is Mr Bowman, is it? Bowers. Sorry, my fault. Mr Bowers, thank you very much for taking those points on, and thank you everybody else that's involved in it. And I just hope we can make ourselves and our communities more appealing rather than seeing toilet stuff in the street. We shouldn't be having that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to what Councillor Wayne said, the water industry is managed in a lot of different ways by a lot of different law. At the top of the water industry is Ofwat. Ofwat determines the investment strategy for the water companies, and they develop they and the water companies have 5-year plans. If the investment isn't in that 5-year plan, it's unlikely to go ahead. On occasion, on exception, the Ofwat will agree to additional expenditure to cover particular problems, but it's on exception. Now, if Severn Trent does not have the necessary infrastructure plan and the funding for that plan in the next 5 years for anywhere in this district where the sewage system is under, or the water supply system is under considerable, impossible load, then it won't happen. Therefore, in terms of requesting information from Severn Trent, it's important that we understand what is in their 5-year plan. And I suggest also that we need to have Ofwat in here, and we need to interrogate them about what they believe is possible in our area, in Derbyshire Dales. In terms of, we've talked a lot about sewerage and drainage, but we haven't talked about water supply. But in Matlock East and Tansley, Tansley has regular shortages of water supply, and they have to tanker water into their reservoir in order to keep it supplied. Ryber was lost its supply of water last week. The Cavendish Road area loses its water regularly, and when it does, the power goes off as well, because the pumps are short or do something to the power supply. This is a real problem. This is infrastructure, Severn Trent infrastructure, which is failing not only in sewerage and surface water that it has to carry, but also in the supply of clean drinking water. Severn Trent needs to get its act together, but Ofwat needs to get its act together too. We're at mercy of both of these organisations. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. Just to wind up, I hope, the debate. First of all, I want to thank Anthony Bates and his Conservative colleagues for their support during this evening and during the local plan preparation. Now, I'm a supporter of the Labour government, but I'm not one to be intimidated by the housing numbers that have been imposed on the district council, and I'm quite sure that the local plan committee, if necessary, will prepare a well-researched and evidenced basis for a lower housing requirement in our local plan. Equally, we know that we have a very tight timetable to work to, but so long as I'm chair of the local plan committee, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all members, we will not bring a local plan forward to this council which doesn't address all the issues which members have referred to this evening. So I do want to give that assurance to everyone here and to members of the public. Thank you, Chair.
We've had a very full debate on that. I thank you for that. So we're now moving to a vote. We've had a proposer and a seconder. So there's a single recommendation here that we adopt the local development scheme as set out in Appendix 1. Can I have all those in favour, please show? Okay, and against? 2. Abstentions? None. Thank you, that's clearly carried. We're on to agenda item 12, which is the Sports Development Team recommendation from Community Environment Committee. Dave.
Thank you, Chair. This report is requesting £45,000 from reserves to fund 2 part-time Move More coordinators. The report is a repeat of the report which went to Community and Environmental Committee on the 15th of January, where it was unanimously supported. As the minutes weren't ready for this meeting, from that meeting, we've had to bring it again rather than wait till March, where those minutes will be approved by Council. For clarity, the 2 years is from 2027, as we already have 1 year funding, so we'll be looking to recruit into a 3 year of posts. The roles are vital for the delivery of the outreach and wellbeing and activity programmes across the district. With these roles in place, Sports Development Team wouldn't be able to continue most of the key work they do, some of which is outlined in the report under 2.2. Some of the main and most recent examples which members will be aware of is the 2 tennis court projects in Matlock and Bakewell. We wouldn't have been able to do those or bid for those fully funded projects without these roles to go and deliver the outcomes as part of those bids. Recently on Saturday there was over 230 participants in Hawley's Park doing a fun run, families which again wouldn't happen without these roles being in place. They also support activities across the district in deprived areas such as on Hurst Farm, and they do chair-based exercises in care homes and harder to reach places for those that are less mobile. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dave. It's a fascinating report. I particularly appreciate the appendix at the back there, which compares and contrasts Derbyshire Dales with the rest of the country. Have we got any questions? No. Oh,
just a quick one. Mr. Turvey, is there because I presume if we authorise it tonight, are you going to have enough time to get everything in place?
Through you, Chair. Yes, the adverts have been out and been changed from 1 year to 3 years to on hold. So should this be approved and we know we can move ahead with 3 years, then we have applicants waiting to be invited in for interviews. So currently one post is vacant, the other one's due to be vacant early March due to retirement. So we're trying to have as limited gaps as possible so we can continue delivery.
Thanks very much, Tar.
Okay. No more questions. Do we have a proposer?
Chair, I'd like to propose.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
I would say that the event on Saturday, the three kilometre run, was excellent. It was well organised and it was fun. So thank you very much. There were lots of children there, and a couple of dogs, and lots of people. So it was a good event, and I think we need that in Derbyshire Dales.
Okay, Councillor Wayne, are you seconding?
Assuming it sounds such good fun what Councillor Hughes has just described to us, yes, I'll second it. And thanks very much. I've already heard it once at the Community and Environment. I will. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay. Do any other members want to speak on this? Councillor G.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Dave Turvey for his work on this, and in particular his work to bring the tennis courts upgrade in Bakewell. I think that's fabulous. So I've got no hesitation whatsoever in supporting this item. I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Okay. If there's nobody else, Councillor Wilton.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I enjoyed the activity at the weekend. It was very good. My kids loved it as well. It would be great to see people getting involved, and it'd be good to see the outputs from this and how it draws people in, the people that are inactive and people who are obviously socially less well off that need to be engaged with as well. It'd be good to see how that develops as we go along as well. But no, great, thank you.
Councillor Martin Burford.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to endorse what colleagues have said already, but as you're aware, it was presented excellently last week by David Turvey, and he's now trying to replicate that tonight. Excellent report, excellent presentation, particularly last week, because that's when we didn't know much about it, so he gave a more comprehensive report then, I suppose. But it is really, it's not gone on, is it? That's it. It is something that's so important, I think. In fact, this morning I attended a 2.25 hour meeting of the Derbyshire County Council's Health and Wellbeing Board, representing this council. And some of the reports you get at that meeting are quite boring, and you have a job to stay awake. But there's quite a lot about deprivation throughout the county, and about child obesity in year 6. It was actually year 6 pupils that have been obviously assessed. And we actually come out quite well in Derbyshire Dales compared to other districts. I think even, in fact, in terms of child obesity, the Derbyshire County Council average is 21.6%. Bolsover is the worst at 26%, and Derbyshire Dales is the least, if you like, so that's good, I suppose, for us, at 16%. I suppose it's not surprising given our sort of socio-economic status in the county and our population. But these Move More coordinators are absolutely vital, I think, to reduce inactivity. That's the other issue we had presentations about this morning. So too many young people, particularly, sat behind computers and so on and games, and not really getting much exercise. So obviously that is adding or reinforcing the problem of obesity and inactivity, as we were saying this morning. And these, as Dave as the report outlines, the projects that funded projects that these Move More coordinators actually lead on include community safety partnership youth club sessions to help reduce antisocial behaviour. That's another advantage. And of course support for the community health walks programme, which we've heard about, because in fact, I think Dave did allude to the problems on Hurst Farm. Hurst Farm is one of the most deprived areas in the county, not just in the district. And of course the scheme there, which was initiated by Rob Coggins in the past, and it's been continued with several officers, and now the footpaths around Hurst Farm are absolutely superb, and they've encouraged our Move More coordinators to lead walks around that and runs, whatever, as well. It's a superb surface, which I would thoroughly encourage everyone to go and visit at some stage and walk around the whole of the outside of the estate to experience the wildlife there, in fact. Something that's not generally known by people throughout Matlock, and they need to get out and do that and get exercise at the same time. So I'd just like to endorse the recommendation, proposed and seconded, and I hope everyone will support it unanimously.
Thank you. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, happy to support Dave's report. I think it's a wonderful thing, but it's nice to know that it's not just all about running. It's supporting old children, old people, young people, people of all ages and all groups. So this, by employing some other people, it's going to give people a lot more chance in the Dales to get fit and get out there and do things. Won't affect my running ability. Can't see why they call it a fun run at all, but happy to support it.
Thank you. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. We've got a recommendation in front of us to appoint these two posts. And can we have a show of hands in favour, please? That is unanimous on this occasion. That's a good note on which to end tonight. Members, thank you very much for your time and engagement tonight. Good.
We should have a yellow card, red card rule for Gareth G when he does that.
Close,
That was really out of order.